So what's the matter with the Wave Rebellion Pros? Aggressive, and this cut goes in front, or is really a shoe sort of compresses. Feel that in every step. We've got some serious talking coming up, but first I'm gonna take this shoe to a race. If you want to skip the race and jump to the next chapter, feel absolutely free to do so. 2 years ago I bought the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro and immediately ran a 10k race in them. The race went okay, but I was kind of underwhelmed. 500 kilometers later, I want to give them another chance, run another 10k race. I changed my running stride in the last 6 months. The shoes actually feel very comfortable. They give a good feeling because there is so much stack in the midfoot. It feels like they're very bouncy, but they're actually not. I think I'm not bouncing at all. And in fact, because of the shape of the shoe, I think there's more friction on the road when you run slow. I know in general it feels like I have to put in more energy to maintain the same pace as in other racing shoes. I'm now just jogging to the finish line. Perhaps I started a little bit too fast. I had stitches from very early on and then completely bonked around kilometer 2.5 or so. Then got progressively slower and slower. And in fact, the slower you go, the worse the shoe behaves. Right, I'm feeling a little bit better now. Reaching the end, so I'm gonna try to push the last kilometer or so. Let's go. Jogging back home to add another 5 kilometers to at least make something of the day. Alright, the race went terribly wrong for me. There are plenty of good reasons for that, but that's not the point. So what's the matter with the Wave Rebellion Pro? Well, first of all, let me tell you why I got trapped, so to say, into buying them 2 years ago. Well, first, Mizuno says these shoes are for marathon runners under 2 hours and 30 minutes. So you think naturally, yeah, well, these shoes must be fast. And then you look at them and you see this prominent heel bevel here, which looks aggressive, and the shop attendant and everybody in fact tells you these are very aggressive shoes. And you see under the outsole this quite enormous groove here, which really looks aggressive, and this cut here. So yeah, the shoes are aggressive. Then you try them on in the shop and they feel very comfortable, they feel good. The upper is comfortable, the sizing is just right. Then you walk around a little bit and then jump a little bit and it feels okay. So you think, yeah, well, if the shoe is really that aggressive and I feel good in them, then yeah, I should be able to run fast in them. And even if you're lucky enough to find a shop that has a treadmill to try them, you will actually get the same feeling. They feel good, they feel comfortable, they feel bouncy when you try them. So that's how I got trapped into buying them 2 years ago. But there are actually a number of issues with these shoes. So issue number one is that the outsole is very tacky, I would say. I did not really notice that in the shop, but I did notice it immediately in my first run on the road. And then I thought, well, okay, that's actually good because it feels grippy. It gives more stability because, well, that can look a little bit unstable, and also because of this big groove here, you can think the shoe is unstable, but it's actually very, very grippy. Even if the course is very windy and sinuous, with a lot of turns, no issue. The shoe really sticks to the road. So, well, that should be good, right? And really, traction is what you want, isn't it? You want a shoe that really transmits the energy when you push back, don't you? But in reality, what happens if your stride is not like a super elite stride that is not 100% perfect? Well, in fact, what happens is, okay, you push back, then you collect your foot behind, then bring the knee forward like this, and then sort of hit the ground more or less vertically and start again. But as you collect the leg, I mean, you bring your knee up forward and collect the leg, there is like a lever effect. So the leg does like that, and your foot goes in front. And unless you have very strong hamstrings, you actually hit the road. If you combine that with the forward movement, because you're just going forward, you're just running. In fact, when your foot hits the road, it's not really vertical backwards. It's not really like that, but it's more somewhat like that. Especially for us amateur runners, we don't have a super high knee lift. We don't do that. We tend to lift the foot perhaps, maximum 10 centimeters. So it ends up hitting the ground with a slight forward motion. In fact, you're even lucky if you hit the ground forefoot. It's probably more like that. So forwards on the heel or midfoot, like that, right? Okay. So what happens is that the more sticky, the more tacky the outsole is, the more it puts the brakes on when you land. So that really breaks you. So that's an issue. And in fact, even if you're an elite runner and you have a perfect stride and you really hit the ground vertically, even a little bit like that backwards, there's another issue, which is that the outsole is really sticks somehow to the tarmac. Now that is not the case anymore, because it's they have over 500 kilometers, so they are not that tacky anymore. But I remember when they were new, the feeling was that I was like running on some kind of gluish surface, like the tarmac was melting or something like that. And so there is a force, even if you hit the ground vertically, it gets stuck to the ground. So you don't want that. Now, as I said, the shoes are a bit worn out, so that's not the case anymore, but they are still very grippy, like in the horizontal direction, in the horizontal plane, so forward and backwards. Now, this tackiness of the outsole, I would say, is a good thing for trainers, for example, because they make you feel, it makes them feel safer, especially if you're training in wet conditions, but not so much so for racing shoes, especially for amateur runners, because we don't have a perfect stride. The issue number 2, I believe, is due to the geometry of the shoe, this curved outsole, curved form. The issue here, I would say, is that as an amateur runner, when you hit the ground sort of there, or perhaps even a little bit heel strike, so you hit the ground like that, and then it goes sort of rolling like that. Actually, it also compresses a little bit like that. That means the contact with the road, the surface that's in contact is very long and lasts for a long time because of this roller and because of the compression. If you compare that to other shoes like, I don't know, racing shoes like the Alphafly, for example, even if you heel strike, what happens is it's like more instant, more immediate. It doesn't really roll, so you go from there to really like hitting the ground on your forefoot, and that's why these shoes are actually noisy, less than previous versions, but still. In fact, previous versions, the Alphafly 1 and 2, they had a cut here, so the forefoot was like separate, which means there's less contact surface and contact time with the ground when you go from here to there. And same thing with the Vaporflies. The outsole is pretty flat, so if you hit the ground like that, it's got a shorter duration of contact time and a shorter surface compared to the Wave Rebellion Pros. Now, issue number 3, I believe, is how the carbon plate works. As far as I understand, the carbon plate is here in the middle, in between these two foams, the two colors. So the carbon plate is like, pretty much parallel to the insole, so parallel to your foot. But because of this big lump of foam here in the midfoot, what happens is you hit the ground, and with the force and your own weight, the shoe sort of compresses like that. So what happens to the plate, which I'm not even sure it's carbon plate or nylon, but anyway, so the plate goes it bends like that, right? So it was flat, and because of this lump here, which pushes from the middle, it bends a little bit like that, and then when you release, it releases, right? So that's the kind of energy accumulation that the plate gets and returns when you lift the foot. But it's not that much. I mean, it's like that, but it's not that much energy return compared to, I don't know, to the Vaporfly, where the plate bends more like that, it gets more energy return. And if you compare to the Alphafly, it's kind of the same, but here you have the pods that also contribute to the bounciness of the shoe. So yeah, the way the plate works is not great in my opinion. Now, issue number 4, again in my opinion, is that because of the geometry of the shoe, again you sort of hit the ground like that, and then it sort of rolls because it's curved, so it rolls forward, and then okay, you push. But what that means is that when you hit the ground, the force that you exert on the ground is sort of absorbed by the shape. So it goes like that, and by the time you reach the forefoot, which is where supposedly the energy would be stored and then released when you push back, this is, the force has been absorbed. I mean, if you compare to let's say the Alphafly and hit the ground like that, when you roll, because there is no such curved form, you sort of slam the forefoot on the ground, and this slamming is where the power the power is accumulated. So and that compresses the forefoot, and this is where the energy is released. But if the power is absorbed by the form, yeah, the shoe feels very good. That's actually why the shoe feels, well, that's one of the reasons why the shoe feels good, because it absorbs this the pounding. That's also why I've been using these shoes for long runs, because yeah, they feel good, but they actually don't help utilizing the power of slamming your foot on the ground and bouncing, and that's why I feel these shoes are not really bouncy. They feel bouncy, but they are not. And that's actually issue number 5, which is, yeah, these shoes play a bad trick on you, on your brain, because you're mentally, you think they are bouncy, but they are not so much. And you think they're bouncy because of this lump here. So when you land, the shoe compresses, like I said before, like this, and this creates this lump here goes up. So what you feel is a force being exerted under the arch of your foot. So you feel that in every step, and well, that's a strange feeling that you don't have in other shoes. So it tricks you into thinking that, yeah, you're bouncing because you feel this force, but you're actually not bouncing. And then it's even worse because you think you're bouncing, so you don't really try to bounce more, if that makes sense. And issue number 6 is also related to that. It's that I believe this shoe leads to a lack of pushback in the pushback phase because of 2 reasons. First, the sort of lack of ankle dorsiflexion, which is the angle here between your leg and your foot. So if the ankle is dorsiflexed, it's more like that, and if it's not, it's more like that, right? So in a normal shoe, you would hit the ground like that, and the ankle will be dorsiflexed, which means it's the Achilles tendon here accumulates the energy, and this energy is released when you push back. But what happens if you have, let's say, an enormous heel and an enormous heel to toe drop, which officially these shoes have a very small drop because they measure it from here to here. So it's it's a trick from Mizuno, but in fact, if that's the way you push, imagine there was sole all the way to here. That would be like an enormous 80 millimeters heel, and like, I don't know, 50 millimeters drop. So that means your foot is inclined forward, and the angle with your leg is actually very open. So there is very little ankle dorsiflexion, which means the Achilles tendon is not tense, it does not accumulate a lot of energy, and then when you push back, well, it does not really help, it does not really push back. That's one of the reasons. And the other reason is, again, because of the curve and the way the shoe compresses, it makes you feel a force in the midfoot, under the arch of your foot, and that force actually sort of disconnects the tendons or the muscles, the tension in your forefoot. I mean, you can actually even feel it in your hand. If you push there, your toes become a little bit dumb and not really tense and not pushing, and that's what you feel. You feel this pressure here under your foot arch that leads to not really pushing or not really having the necessary tension in your forefoot in order to push back. So yeah, these are the 6 issues I found with the shoes. So will I keep them? Will I keep using them? Well, in fact, after over 500 kilometers, I think that's it. The only good usage I found for the shoe was very fast, short intervals. But I don't do that kind of intervals very often, and even so, I mean, the shoes are not better than, I don't know, the Vaporflies, for example. So I think that's it for them. Will I buy the new Wave Rebellion Pro 3s? Well, I'd be keen on trying them. I'm sure they will feel very comfortable and bouncy and so on, because well, I'm sure they follow the same philosophy. But now, knowing what I know now, I think I would resist from buying them. That being said, I want to thank Mizuno for daring to put out a shoe like that. It's very interesting, and it has taught me quite a few things on my running stride and on the way running shoes work. So thank you, Mizuno. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find a way to really get full benefits of the shoe, and more importantly, I think there are other shoes that suit me better. But again, I'm just an average runner. I'm not an elite runner. I'm not sure, in fact, how elite runners would get the benefits of this shoe. Perhaps they would hit the ground with more force and more power, and they would manage to compress this foam here in the forefoot, and that's the way to use them. Surely they would have a better running stride, and they would hit the ground more backwards, so the grippiness of the shoe would play in their advantage, which is not the case for me. But yeah, that's a shame, in fact, because after more than 500 kilometers, the shoes are holding on very well. There is very little to no wear and tear at all. The shoes are still very comfortable, they look very nice. So yeah, it's a shame, but I just don't know how to use these shoes. So that's it for today. I'll see you in the next video, and in the meantime, remember, if you run around, don't forget to look around. Ciao!